5 o'clock. I call the meeting of the Finance and Human Resource Committee to order. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, roll call, please.
Daniels. Here. Ermeling.
Here.
Farr. Lobsaral.
Here.
Wynell.
Here.
Olson.
Here.
Soper.
Here.
Public comments. Do we have one? Anybody raising their hand? Anyone in the audience? Minutes of previous meeting of March 16th, 2026. What's your pleasure?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Who's second? All right, by Olson and Daniels. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. All right, acknowledge work for product transmittals. Do you want to draft a 2025 financial report? What's your pleasure?
I'll move to acknowledge.
Do I have a second?
Second.
You said that?
Soper.
Okay, thank you. You said it so quietly. I didn't. So that's okay. Ms. Soper, on the question?
Do you want Jess to just go over a little bit? I know she had a memo in the packet about
Yes.
our financial statement.
I really prepared the memo because those were my really good thoughts at the time. I guess I don't really have anything else more to point out unless you have questions.
If any questions, you just got her memo.
When do you expect the numbers to be completed?
The audit is being done Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of this week. We received Mountain Bay's financials at the end of the day Thursday, so we weren't able to get that in yet. But Song finished the front section. I'm just gonna review it and we'll send it to the auditor.
Can you explain how that relates to our financials? I'm just curious if, I know we have an obligation there, we pay 65%, I understand that, but isn't that just a contractual arrangement or not? Or is it part of our umbrella?
We are 65% of their budget, so we'll have to see what the auditors think. In the past, we've always had an investment in joint venture and we recorded it on our books. Basically, if the entity were to dissolve, kind of like Everest Metro did, whose assets are those, right? And Everest Metro's was originally, if it were dissolved, the assets were to go to the respective communities.
Right, but we don't see any financial issues of, for them, do we? I'm Mountain Bay. Well, I mean, if they're purchasing something that doesn't go through the Village of Weston, it gets done by that organization, correct?
But 3 of our trustees are on their oversight. And so three trustees from our board review their purchases monthly.
I understand that.
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, so then would we like to acknowledge the financial report?
We have a motion in a second.
Did we? Okay, I didn't mark it down. I think you said that and I put writing here. Okay, I have a motion in a second also? Yes, I did. Yes, I did. Okay, on the question, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Sorry about that. I usually write it down so I don't hit it a second time. March budget status report. Anything on that, Jessica? Okay, any questions on that?
I have one. Just wondering, since we're ahead in expenditures for the year, obviously the winter storm was part of that. Any concerns that we're gonna run short by the end of the year, or?
I think we're definitely gonna be watching that, like if we have an early winter, definitely be a concern, or a hard winter, in the second half of the year. Obviously, we still know we can have snowstorms yet. Look back in your, so for Amazon, we have our photos by year and we've had some pretty good snowstorms about this time of year. So anyway, the fuel is really the one that I think Michael and I kind of talking about. When I looked at last year, we're like a month ahead on fuel than we were in the past. But we've had excess budget last year. I don't think we reduced that one. Michael, any concerns for you? I know you watch your budget.
Yeah, I guess the other item I think that maybe plays a little factor in that, I was trying to find the exact number here. Our winter street maintenance, we did buy a fair amount of our salt this spring versus in the fall. So our winter maintenance itself is an $80,000 current year-to-date actual, higher than last year, but I think we bought like $100,000 worth of salt, so.
Last year, we did a budget amendment and took money out of salt and moved it elsewhere. So when you look at the final budget for salt this year, it's not where we started.
So in reality, we're not really that far ahead. It's just kind of where things are falling.
I think it's just that some of the timing, yeah.
And then the unknown of fuel, which is probably not gonna change.
Yeah.
Anytime soon.
We had talked about that winter storm, there was maybe some relief funds from, is that any movement on that?
We were about $10,000 shy of meeting the threshold that we needed to
Genius.
spend. Yeah. If we would have been a little less productive, a little less efficient, or had some major breakdowns in equipment, we probably would have met it, but we needed about, I think it was $76,000 worth of costs over a 48-hour period. And we were at a little over 60, so.
Interesting, okay.
The town of Weston though is getting reimbursed. Or should be if they submitted their paperwork.
Okay, anything else? Okay, I need a motion to acknowledge.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Stephanie. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Steve. Okay. On the question, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? So carried. TIF 1 and TIF 2 detail reports for March. Jessica, do you want to comment on that or?
No, we just have our regular administrative expenses going in there, and then we had additional Weston Avenue or Schofield Avenue, just an engineering bill that came in at the end.
Any questions for Jessica? Okay, I need a motion to acknowledge.
Motion.
I'll second.
Okay, Bronson and Daniels, okay. You are speaking so softly, I cannot hear you.
Start yelling.
That's legal details for March.
Motion.
We can take a vote.
Pardon?
You need to make a motion.
Oh.
Can we take a vote on?
We have to take a
Yes,
first
we
and
did,
second.
yeah, yes. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay, now I can cross that off. Legal details for March. Any questions, comments? Motion to acknowledge?
So moved.
Motion by Steve.
I'll second.
Second by Olson. On the question. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. Okay. Educational presentations and reports. Number 9, discussion on planning and development, operations and budget. All right. I assume that is Jennifer.
That is me. All right, so tonight I am going to give you a high-level overview of the Planning and Development Department. I will walk through our core services, budget, and current workload. So this first slide is the full team supporting all department functions. It is a small, efficient group covering a wide range of responsibilities. In a larger community like Wausau, these responsibilities would typically be spread across a few different departments, multiple departments or positions. Here, that workload is consolidated into the team that you see up there, which creates efficiency, but also means each person is carrying a broader workload. Staffing levels have remained largely unchanged, even as workload and expectations have grown over the years. So the department plays a central role in guiding growth and maintaining community standards. As you can see with our core services up there, we cover planning, zoning, inspections, code enforcement, and then several public-facing services, like the refuse and recycling program and property maintenance. In many communities, these functions are separated, but here they're combined, which helps streamline service delivery. At the same time, it concentrates a significant amount of responsibility within a small team. Next slide. So planning. Planning focuses on reviewing and guiding development proposals. We coordinate with developers, engineers, and agencies while supporting long-range planning efforts for the village. So we're seeing steady activity along with increasing project complexity, which requires more staff time per project. So you kind of can see the planning function up there, which feeds into the Plan Commission. We also support the Zoning Board of Appeals. That committee actually has not met since the new zoning code went into place in 2016. So when we got the new.
Don't want to jinx it.
Well, we've had a couple times they've tried, but typically we're either able to adjust the code or we were given the opportunity to get a code that actually works with the community. When I first came here in 2003, we were operating underneath, essentially it was the model town ordinance for the town of Weston. So Barb probably remembers that. It was created by, I believe, the RPC along with UW-Madison. And so when I got here, we cobbled it together to do all that development that happened out in the industrial park. So that was all done with doing code changes. But in 2013, we started a massive update and we got that new code that we have. So over the years, we've tweaked it where we need to, but it's helped to essentially not have so many zoning board of appeals meetings. So zoning, I talked a little bit about that function. We administer the zoning code, which is chapter 94. Zoning ensures development aligns with village regulations and community expectations. There's a high level of daily interaction with residents and businesses with the zoning code. We spend a lot of time asking or helping them figure out how their projects fit into the regulations that we have. Compliance and enforcement responsibilities continue to grow alongside development activity here. So this next slide is just a snapshot from a report that the department did. This was the first year that we did the planning and development report. So this is a snapshot of all, basically the Plan Commission reviewed items, the planning and zoning, that function for the village. When we went to the new code, a number of the items that would normally go to the Plan Commission, like sign permits and things like that, were given to staff to just do. So you see in that last column, a number of the items are just reviewed by staff and then either acknowledged by the board or the Plan Commission. So what you're seeing on there are rezone requests, conditional use permits, site plans that have had to go to the board or the Plan Commission. What this is showing is that demand is up and our staffing is still kind of unchanged through all that. So this is a 5-year snapshot. The green is 2025. So you're seeing that we've kind of had an increase in a lot of things. So this is the planning and zoning budget. You're going to see that the department is in the general fund in a number of different areas. So the planning and zoning function is housed here. The 26 budget reflects a slight decrease while maintaining full service levels. Staffing in this budget has remained unchanged since 2014 when the assistant planner position was created, despite the sustained demand for projects that have come through over the years. Myself, the assistant planner, and the planning technician salaries are located in this budget. You'll see where the other three guys are in later budgets. We continue to manage increased workload through efficiency and prioritization. We utilize the Evolve, our online permitting and planning software that we've been using since 2017. That's been very helpful in allowing, the technology allows us to increase our efforts and get a lot more done, with allowing us to keep staff at the levels that they're at. So this slide just kind of details the building inspections portion. So the permitting and inspection side of the department. Building inspections ensures safe and compliant construction throughout the village. This is a high demand, time sensitive service tied directly to development activities. So you're going to kind of see that it fluctuates depending on what's going on there. Right now, they have a high level of residential development that's going on. We're kind of, since I've been here since 2003, I've kind of seen it seems to do this kind of wave. So we get higher commercial and then we get a residential, and we're seeing a higher residential than we have in the last few years. Maintaining responsiveness is critical to keeping projects moving forward. The next slide is going to show you kind of the workload remains strong across residential and commercial sectors. This came from that report that we had. This is the 2023 to 25 building permits, and then the number of inspections that were completed along with that. The team of three, basically it's Roman and Travis are lead building inspectors, and then we have a part-time electrical inspector. So primarily it's the two of them that are taking care of all of this work. And this is the budget for the building inspection team. Shows a slight decrease in 26 while maintaining current service levels. Staffing has also remained unchanged in this department since 2016, when the property inspector position, which is Travis Meverden's position, was created. This budget includes the salaries of the 2 full-time and then the 1 part-time inspector. Similar to planning, we are continuing to do more with the same resources. Looking ahead, an upcoming retirement will require additional investment in training and transition to maintain continuity. Scott Teacher, who was our previous building inspector, he retired, it was 2 years ago already, and is that part-time electrical inspector. And so when he's going to be transitioning out probably in the next few years. And so Roman and Travis will have to kind of, in order to maintain that same level of service with residents, will have to increase their licensing to get commercial electrical added to their licensures. Or we'll have to outsource that because the state requires us to do that. And then residents will pay a lot more for that service. I believe it's Badgerland that a lot of the other communities utilize. They charge a lot more than what we currently charge for permits and inspections. So this slide shows revenues. The department generates significant revenue, helping offset costs and reduce levy impact. The revenue is directly tied to development activity, which also drives our workload. So you can see in 2025, we collected $361,335.40. I do have the budgets on the side, just so that you can kind of see. So essentially, out of the two, the planning and development and the building inspections budget, $120,573.60 is what is basically the offset from their revenue that we had. So as activity increases, it highlights both the value of the department and the demand placed on staff. So another function of the department is economic development. We rely heavily on our collaboration with our local and regional economic partners for this. We don't have anyone dedicated on staff that does this. It's kind of coordinated depending on what is happening. I tend to be the first line where people call, and typically Jamie and I, when we had the TIF available, would meet with them. Jess would get involved too for financing and for closing things out, but we have not had anyone on staff that has been dedicated to this for quite some time. We had an economic development coordinator that was around, I think, 2019 to 2021, but it was essentially right during COVID. And we just we never replaced it. That was funded entirely by TID. Also, so this service will be changing just because the TIF districts are meeting the end of their life and they'll be closing. So there'll be a loss of incentives that the village can provide. But we do have a few lots left in Business Park South, and then the 2 lots that we have left.
2 in the
Oh, yeah,
driving range.
2 lots and then the driving range. So not a whole lot left. Everything's been filled. So this does not have its own dedicated budget. The economic development, there really isn't a dedicated budget. Like I said, there are no incentives available anymore, and we don't really have dedicated staff members. We kind of all share the duties and rely on our partners. Another service we provide is property maintenance and code enforcement. This also it's a highly visible service that we provide because it directly impacts neighborhood quality. We respond to complaints, investigate issues, and work toward compliance. And this is an area where demand continues to increase and requires consistent staff attention. The last 2 years, we've worked heavily with the Mountain Bay Metro PD and their community service officers. We have to share them while they're at school, but during the summer when we tend to see our uptick, they are available to us. So we have 2 officers that help us, and we meet weekly with them during the summer, and they can provide that extra step by showing up and giving citations if needed. So you'll see on the next slide, I think you'll see they've helped us quite a bit. We did put together a code enforcement report for 2025, and this information comes from that. So last year was our highest year that we have on record since we've been basically keeping track of complaints, which is basically goes all the way back to 2003 when I started. Despite that, nearly 89% of cases were resolved within the year. And this service is being managed without dedicated staff or budget resources. My department tends to take care of a lot of the complaints that come in just because we are familiar with codes. But when you look at it, the majority of them are nuisance complaints, which falls in a completely different section of the code and is not tied to the zoning code. But You'll see that if it is a zoning complaint, those tend to take a lot longer just because they are land use issues usually. And like I said before, this doesn't currently have, it doesn't have a separate budget. So it's basically just staff time when we have the ability from our other duties to take care of things. We also have refuse and recycling that's within the department. This program is self-supported and does not rely on the general levy at all. That's the budget for it. It is funded by state recycling grants and then basically the per year service fee that is on our 1 to 4 resident, 4 to 1 or 1 to 4 unit residential properties. It provides essential, highly visible service to residents. Valerie Parker, that is in the office, she tends to be the liaison for this, and she works directly with Harders, basically to kind of monitor that service. While financially stable, it still requires some oversight. So she does have a portion of her wages that do come out of this budget for administration. And the last service that we provide is for village facilities and maintenance. So Roman, who is our lead building inspector, is also considered the building manager. This is the budget for it. It does not actually have any salary or wages put towards it. The number that you saw last year in there was actually a lot of Scott Tatro's time last year was actually that was his time for things that he did around. So he's a big help here just because he's very handy. So a lot of times he's either, if he's not doing electrical inspection, he's helping out with, you know, changing light bulbs here or when a toilet breaks down or things like that. If he's not around, then that kind of falls on Roman and Travis. So that also takes away their time in inspections. So that's basically that budget. The last slide that I have is just our 2026 priorities and goals. We put together a work plan this year for the department. And then like I said, we also have those 2 reports that we did, but the focus remains on maintaining service levels with current staffing, continued emphasis on efficiency, technology, and staff development, preparing for staffing transitions and sustained development demand. And then longer term, we'll continue to evaluate capacity to ensure that our service levels remain consistent.
Any questions for Jennifer? Comments, concerns?
Are you planning on putting this on social media, kind of like what we did with the DPW presentation? Are you planning to put this on social media, like on Facebook?
We can.
I think we should. I think it's important to have people understand what exactly that department all does. I know it's in the meeting minutes, but I mean, between the 2 meetings tonight, there were 850 pages of packets. So most people are not going to dig through that to find it. So I think we should highlight it. I think it's important people understand what is all included in that department or departments, I guess you could say.
We talked about after we were through with all the departments, we could combine these and essentially make a book about a recap of all of the departments and budgets and what are the responsibilities under each, and would be something we could update annually to share. So
Yeah, I did put a separate link on the Public Works page to it, and I think we did make a post just saying, hey, learn more about Public Works.
next month will be the clerk's department.
Anything else, or do we need a motion or anything to acknowledge, or just? So, and Jennifer, I want to say good work. I mean, I know there's a lot going on in your department, and These all do a very good job. Okay. Alrighty. 2025 project highlights.
I put this together because I know sometimes we talk about projects and things get approved, but nobody ever takes the time to put everything together. So I thought that was a really impressive sheet this year. We did a lot of projects, and this is only the projects that we actually completed. Like there's no more payments going towards these projects. So the total infrastructure and put in this year is 32,935,000. That's a pretty impressive number. Obviously it wasn't all done in 1 year, but in the last few years, that basically shows the projects and the monies. I mean, that's real money. Those are checks going out the door, $32 million. A lot of that, I have down below where the funding actually came from. So between TIF, utility funds, and general and utility borrowings, that $32 million all passed through our bank account. We got interest on it, and now it's now gone. So.
Any questions for Jessica on this?
No questions. I really appreciated seeing this laid out and kind of, it's nice to see a picture of all these projects that we talk about all year round, and it can be easy to forget, oh yeah, we did do that. And then breaking down at the bottom how they were funded, I think is important too, because it helps people know that these things don't get done just by tax dollars. It's grant money, it's shared partnerships. So really good slide there.
Yes, I was gonna say that too, that I know we talked about them and everything else, but to actually see it, I think Michael had a busy year.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last couple of years has been,
Yes, well, I didn't
A
mean
lot.
just this year, but it's been.
Yeah.
3 years. Fuller Street, we're going on the 3rd year with accumulating costs for Fuller Street, and that's not done yet, so it's not even on there, so.
yeah,
Weston Avenue.
Weston Avenue is 3 years also, but Fuller we started engineering.
yeah, so I guess that's maybe a point there too, is, from the time a project starts and we get the go ahead and, you know, the capital fund, I mean, we start surveying and design. And then, you know, it's generally 9 months to a year, if not more. You know, some of our water projects, we have to do certain pilot studies or things before we can even get into design. And then you do the design of the project, and then you do the construction of the project, and then you do the follow-up construction, or, you know, the spring warranty work that we generally get. And, you know, so sometimes it is nice to be able to look back and be like, oh yeah, we did all that, because you know, this is what, 10 projects, 11 projects in various phases throughout there. And during that time, we had other projects that ended in 24 while these were getting started or in process in 25. And so it is sometimes daunting when you look at it. But and then at the end, you know, Jessica's time is hounding me to make sure we get final costs and everything is done and we get it together, so.
Questions for, other than that? No, I will have one on the, well, I guess on Weston Avenue. Now that's gonna be all contractor.
Yeah, that's all
That's
warranty
fine.
stuff. Same thing like Schofield Ave's pavement markings, some of the manhole adjustments. Fuller has manhole adjustments, restoration left. That's all, yeah, that's all the contractors.
Avenue's gonna get raised theirs too.
Yeah, so that's
I heard
all.
My neighbor complaining about the man-made potholes.
I talked to one of your neighbors for about 50 minutes last week.
50, I bet you.
50, yep. So, yes.
Cause you gotta buy, it's usually with me for an hour, even in the grocery store.
I gave her his number.
Okay, anything else that you had concerned with? Okay. Okay, and then item 11, update on TIF District 1. Jessica, that is you. Sure.
Put a little summary together on our TIF district. Are you gonna show the map?
Yeah, let me see if I can get that up and we can share.
Anyway, I thought this was pretty impressive. We talk about TIF District 1. At one point it was, I don't know if it still is, the largest square area TIF in the state. It was one of the early ones. 1998, it was created back when TIFs were pretty young yet, and the impact of a TIF wasn't quite known yet. But it added 354 million in assessed value to the village since 1998. That's a pretty big number. Total assessed value at 12/31/25 was 1.7 billion. Some major additions to the village, I have pictured below the Aspirus Medical Clinic, Marshfield Hospital, then we have Reddy's in there, a couple other, the business park, we have some pictures from there. Those were all mainly influenced by the TIF and the work done with those funds.
Any questions on this?
Nate put together a map story, I think they're called, which really shows the development, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, like in 2000, it's all farm field, grass for the most part, and then you start slowly seeing buildings and rooftops getting created. We don't quite have the 2025 aerial yet, but even after 2020, I think there's still a lot more that got built in the last 5 years.
Actually, I was always gonna make a comment that people have commented about our having to extend the TIF or the whatever. One of the things that they don't realize is when the TIF was formed, it sat idle for I don't know how many years. Nothing took place on that. And not only that, when the company that time administrator they did the projected estimates on what it could bring in was based on where they came from. So it was all wrong. So it had to be, so when somebody says about how long the TIF was, there was a lot of years it just sat idle. All it was is a dirt road that went in, a little driveway. That was it. So. Okay, anything else?
I was just gonna finish off. So the TIF spent over $86 million in project costs. Of that, 71 million was in infrastructure, 5.7 for property acquisition, and 4.7 for incentives. Total debt issued was 81.3 million, which is a pretty big number. If we want to talk about the extension, that's why we had to extend. When I first started, we were looking at actually closing the TIF in 2012. The TIF was chugging along very well. The increment was enough where we were projecting to close early. And then the state went through kind of like what they did recently is the value of our TIF just tanked. The equalized value, so our increment wasn't even enough to cover our debt payments. So luckily we were able to get special legislation passed and we were able to refinance because prior to 2017, our general fund was paying TIF debt. We were really drawing down our general fund. We were using utilities money. We just didn't have enough money to pay this large debt payment. The TIF didn't have enough income. So but luckily we were able to get the special legislation. We extended it. Officially, we need to close by 2031. The expenditure period was this year. And because we were able to cover all our costs, we are able to close the TIF. So the board passed a special resolution a couple weeks ago to close the TIF. So officially, this TIF is closed. We're gonna finish off the expenditures. We have the administration. We have a couple street projects. Other than that, we'll be closing it. And this committee, we will be talking about what impact does that have. It does have a significant impact to us, to the amount of levy we can raise for this year. But not only are we going to be raising the levy that we're able to function with, we'll be bringing back expenditures. almost everyone in this room, all employees sitting at these tables, we have wages that go to tip. So all that needs to come back to the general fund. So part of the available levy that we'll be bringing back to the general fund will have to go to fund these expenditures. With that also additional levy, we're not gonna be raising the tax rate. With the closure, the DOR has a calculation and that allowable levy increase and the amount of value that we're bringing back to the tax roll is gonna allow us to drop our tax rate. The only thing we're gonna look to make sure is hopefully we stay above the $5. We have, that's an important number for us because we get like $120,000 of state grant money that we could easily lose if we don't keep a high enough tax rate, which sounds really bad, but we're on the verge. And with our debt, with our potential debt that we will be issuing with the new police building and with our next capital projects, I think it will be just about the $5 amount. So that's good news. I mean, obviously not everyone, we are above $5 right now. We will be dropping it. What did I say? Almost $1. Almost $1, which is significant. I think at that point, when we're gonna bring that information to you and we're gonna look at other communities and what they pay per thousand, I think it's really gonna show how efficient this municipality is run. You're gonna be looking towards these other municipalities and their tax rates are gonna be a lot higher and the services are not. So it'll be interesting. I'm hoping probably in a few months, couple months maybe, once we start talking about budget, we'll get some numbers finalized. But the final numbers won't be coming till fall, so.
Questions for them? I'll just have one simply because I've heard comments on it. Will this closing help us at all fund any fire expenditures?
We should be able to help fund some, but it's not an answer.
Right.
When we brought the resolution to go for referendum, Amy and I brought to a 300,000 and a 600,000. Part of that reason was because we knew closing wasn't gonna fund it all.
I tried my part. Okay, anything else? Thank you. Appreciate your report. Okay. New business. Anything that you have, Jamie, or? Okay, remarks from staff. Louis? Anything? You're not staff, I know. Jessica?
I'll do my same plug and if maybe these could go to the YMCA.
Sure.
Oh. We still have the comp plan survey available. We still have some postcards available to, if anyone's got a place to put them out. Deadline is May 15th, but we right now have less than 400 responses. So we would really like to pump up our number of replies because that will make our comp plan even better, the more we have. So I can share these postcards around and feel free to take some and whatever is left, if you could take them to the Y, that
Can I
would,
take these?
yeah, that would be great.
I was gonna say.
They're kind of nice little.
You're letting them off the hook.
Okay, anything else? Jessica, anything? Jennifer? Michael? Okay. I looked at you and I was thinking Michael and I. Oh.
They look so much alike.
Yes. Remarks from committee members. Now, okay. Anything?
No, I'm good.
Great, Steve?
Nothing, no.
Okay. And I have nothing. I think I made my remarks clear. Future items, next meeting date, Monday, May 8th, 18th at 4:30. Is that all right with everyone? Then we'll need a motion to adjourn. Motion,
So moved.
so moved by those.
Second.
Second by Dean. All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So carried. We adjourn at 5:44.